Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. It's Thursday and I have a very exciting video for you guys today. So today we're going to be DIYing a couple of things from the Urban Outfitters website. So I went to the website and I saw a lot of expensive things like this $49 shirt. It's literally a flannel shirt with a ruffled collar and it's cropped. And for $49, no ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am. So I decided I DIY it and I got this beautiful ruffle shirt for $2.50. Talk about a bargain if you ask me. So let's get right into making it. That way you can rock your $49 shirt without actually spending $49. So first things first, I'm going to crop my shirt. So I just did like 5 buttons from the top, cut off that bit of excess fabric and opened up the shirt. That way I could easily hem the bottom. Since we have a raw edge and this is shirt material which tends to fray so much, I decided to double hem the bottom. That's just folding in the fabric twice and doing a straight stitch all along the bottom edge. So this is me just rolling in my fabric twice and doing a straight stitch. Take your time with this. You want to make sure your stitch is quite straight, quite profesh looking because we're going for the Urban Outfitters feel. So you need to make this look kinda like you did not do it in your basement. So just make sure you're sewing in a straight line, use your seam guide, do whatever you have to do, but just make sure this looks really profesh. So once that's done, as you can see, we have our nicely hemmed shirt. I'm just showing it to you up close, that way you can see the professional level on this channel. And now we're going to work on the ruffled collar. So basically I'm going to start with seam ripping the top bit of the collar that you see me seam ripping now. So as you can see, I'm just taking off that top bit and leaving the bottom bit of the collar completely intact. So I just made sure to do this very carefully. You don't want any fabric tearing because you want this to look like you actually bought it like that. So just be careful with this, take all the time you need, and after a couple of minutes you're going to have this bit of collar completely come off, and this is what it looks like. We don't need it, so get rid of it. As you can see, you're left with a collar that has a gap in the middle that will come very much in handy later on. But for now, let's move on to making the pieces that will make the ruffle. Taking the bottom of the shirt that was left after cropping your shirt, I'm measuring 3.5 inches. This was going to be the width of my ruffle, but after doing everything I decided to reduce it and ended up with about 2.2 inches, but we're going to get to that. For now I'm just cutting off 3.5 inches and then I'm just going to trace that onto the bottom that was left. That way I get 2 exact pieces. Now that we have these 2 beautiful pieces, I decided to open them up and get rid of the plackets, mostly because they would really bulk up my ruffle and I did not want that in my ruffled collar shirt, in my $49 ruffled collar shirt. I also decided to get rid of the tag because she was up in my business and she needed to mind the business that paid her. I got rid of her, and after that was done, we have 2 very long pieces and this is what's going to make your ruffle. So I just put them right sides kissing, that way I could sew them together, and all I'm doing now is I'm aligning the fabric and pinning it in place along the top edge. You don't have to pin this, you can just sew it on your machine without pinning, but I just wanted my fabric to line up really nicely, so I decided pinning was the best option. And after everything was nice and pinned, you're just going to sew along the top edge to close up that edge. And as you can see, there was excess fabric on the side. I got rid of that as well, and you're going to stitch up both sides as well. That way you have 3 sides stitched and you're only going to be left to the bottom edge unstitched. So I just did a basic straight stitch, nothing fancy. I did this at the top and on the sides as well, and then I went in with my scissors and I snipped off the corners, mostly because I thought this would make it easier to turn my fabric right way out. And as you can see, we have this bit of fabric and now I'm just flipping it so that the right side finally comes out where she's meant to be, where she belongs. I'm just making sure she's seen by the world. So after everything was nice and turned out, my fabric was being a bit problematic, so I needed to go in with my ruler and make sure everything was nice and flat. This did take a minute to align and make sure everyone was in the right seat. No one was sitting on someone's territory and everything was looking nice and right. And after doing that, we have a nice ruffle piece. You can iron this if you want, it's totally optional. So after going through the process of making the ruffle, I decided I wanted my it to be a bit thinner, and therefore I shaved off about an inch and I was left with about 2.5 inches of ruffle. So this is totally optional. You can make yours thicker if you want, thinner if you want. I just did not want my ruffle overpowering my shirt, so I decided to tone her down just a little bit. And now all I'm going to do is a basting stitch all along the bottom edge. So to do a basting stitch on your sewing machine, just set your stitch length to the longest length possible. Mine was a 5, so I set mine to a 5. And make sure you have a lot of hanging thread because you want to be able to pull the thread. That way you can ruffle up your bit of fabric quite easily and just do a basic straight stitch along the edge. Do not backstitch at the beginning or the end of your sewing. You want this to be easy to pull, so do not backstitch at all. And once you're done sewing, make sure you have a lot of hanging thread on the end as well. That way you can pull things and everything is nice and cooperative. So as you can see, we have 2 long strings on both ends of my fabric, and to ruffle things up, you're just going to take the top string and pull it and just ruffle out the fabric. So one trick to ruffling out a very long piece of fabric without your string breaking is to make sure you only deal with the top string. Leave the bottom string out of your business. You do not want her because she causes the string to snap. So make sure you're only pulling the top string. Leave the bottom string out of it. It's not her business. Just deal with the top string and pull and ruffle out your fabric until it's ruffled to your heart's content. So as you can see, I'm pulling the top string and ruffling out the fabric. I did this for a few minutes. You will need a few minutes to achieve the desired ruffleness to your bit of fabric, and after that's done, you're just going to have a beautiful ruffled piece that's going to be a ruffled collar. And now it's time to attach it to your shirt. So I made sure to tie off the ends and cut them off because I did not need the excess string. And with my shirt facing up, like the right side facing up, I made sure to attach my ruffle bit inside the gap we had after we seam ripped the top bit of the collar off. So as you can see, I'm tucking in the ruffle, making sure everything is nice and in there. That way I can pin it in place, and when it comes to sewing, my work will be really easy. So this definitely did take a bit of time because I needed to make sure the ruffle really got in there. I was pushing her, I was shoving her, I was making sure she was inside and would not come out. Just make sure everything is nice and aligned on both sides. That's the front and the back side of your shirt collar. And after that's done, when it comes to sewing, your work will be 100 times easier, trust me. So I just pinned all along the bottom edge, made sure to tuck in the ruffle. She was aligned, she was in there, and nothing was peeking out. And after I was satisfied with how she was sitting, I just pinned that bit of fabric down, and that was it. I also took out the button at the top because it would get in my way as I was sewing, but I made sure to reattach it after the ruffle was sewn on. And now all you're going to do is sew along the bottom edge of the ruffle. I did this by doing a top stitch instead of sewing on the inside because I wanted my stitch to be really straight. As this would be seen, I wanted everything to look nice and neat. This is definitely optional. You can sew it on the inside, but I recommend a top stitch. That way you can see exactly how straight your stitch is. When you get to the end of your sewing, always make sure to backstitch because you do not want everything coming undone. And after you're done sewing this down, your ruffle is now attached to your shirt. So I also made sure to re-sew that button because we needed it to make everything nice and complete. And after that was done, we have our beautiful ruffled collar shirt, and we made it for $2.50. So I do really see the concept of this shirt as innovative. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful remake on a regular old boring flannel, but for $49, no thank you. We made this for $2.50 and it looks just as good as the Urban Outfitters one. And now it's time to move on to the next DIY. So for the second DIY, our inspo is this cropped flannel short set. Get this, the shirt retails for $44, the shorts for $44. So this set would cost you $88. That is absurd to me. I don't understand how a shirt would be $44. It's really easy to make. Maybe the fabric is amazing. I don't know, Urban Outfitters. I don't know what your end game is, but whatever. I was gonna make the entire set, but the shorts ended up backfiring. They did not go past my hips. Your girl got a bit thick. So we're just going to do the shirt, and it's really easy to make. So first things first, you're going to seam rip the pocket off. I wanted to maintain a lot of fabric at the bottom since I was making shorts as well, but in case you want your shirt to be cropped below the pocket, you do not need to seam rip it. And after that was done, I just cropped it after the third button. You can make this as long as you want, as short as you want. It's totally up to you, and that's the beauty of cropping your own shirts. You get to decide exactly how long they should be. And after I'd cut off the excess bit of fabric, I was going to make shorts. That did not work out, so we're just making the shirt. And basically all you're going to do is open up your shirt, that way it can be easy to hem the bottom. Since we don't want the bottom of the shirt fraying on us, I'm just going to double hem the bottom and do a straight stitch all the way around. So basically I'm just folding in my fabric twice and doing a straight stitch all the way around. This is going to help with fraying. Your shirt won't fray on you, and it's going to look nice and profesh, and it's actually going to look like a $44 shirt, which is something we want. We're going for it, so we need to go all in. After this was done, as you can see, we have a beautifully hemmed shirt, and now it's time to close things up. I wanted to reattach the pocket. This is totally optional. You can leave out the pocket, but I don't know, for me it was kind of a pocket day and I decided why not. So I just took the pocket and made sure to realign it. I made sure the stripes were aligned, everything was nice and neat. That way it would look like it actually came like this. So once I was satisfied with the position, I just pinned it in place, and I put a lot of pins. I did not want this moving around when I was sewing. Once everything was nice and pinned, I just sewed along the pins. Make sure to leave the top open, that way you can access your pocket. And after everything is done, you now have a cropped flannel shirt that did not cost you $44. Honestly, I love cropped things. I think they're super fabulous, and I paired this with a pair of black jeans. I think it looks really cute, but I love the fact that this did not cost me $44, and you can make this with any kind of flannel shirt you have. It's totally up to you. And since this was really simple, I had to include one last DIY. So I decided to go with this one shoulder tie top. It's super sexy, super cute, but for $39, no thank you. So I decided I'd make mine from a $5 men's t-shirt. So I got this t-shirt for $5. It's a men's size XL, which is okay. You can make it bigger if you want. I definitely do recommend you use a bigger shirt, that way you can have enough fabric for your tie. And to start things off, I wanted to maintain the side seam of my t-shirt, so I just made sure everything was nice and laid out flat. And then I took this maroon dress I made. I'm going to link that video down below in the description bar. So I just took it, and as you can see, she has a mark, and that's where the top length is going to be. Like the length of my crop top bit, that's going to be how long my top is. So make it as long as you want. And as you can see, I'm just making sure everything is nice and flat. We have no lumps in this, no bumps. And after I was satisfied with that, I just folded in one sleeve, because obviously we're making a one shoulder top, you don't need one sleeve. And after that was done, I just traced the shape of my top with a piece of chalk, and I took my sweet time with this. It took me a while to do this. So as you can see, I'm tracing out the armhole, and I'm taking my time. And since we have a side seam, we don't need to trace on that side. And as you can see, when I got to the other side, I made sure to stop where the mark is, because this is where your tie will begin. I hope it makes sense. Okay, just bear with me, this will make sense. So as you can see, I also marked that point on the side seam of the t-shirt, and now I'm just going to flip this around just to make it easier for you to see and easier for me to work on. So as you can see, I just took my ruler, and across that point I'm just drawing a straight line, and I turned it around again. I did not want to cut off the bits I was turning the fabric around, mostly because I want you to see exactly how this is coming into play. It can be a bit confusing, but it's really easy to do, I promise. Just bear with me, and the end result will be fabulous. So as you can see, all I'm doing now is I'm cutting out my top, and I made sure to stop at the straight line we made. And as you can see, I just extended that line using my piece of chalk, and I'm just cutting off the excess bit of fabric. Once that's done, we have a top that looks something like this, but since we need to have a tie part to our top, I'm just going to cut along the line that we drew earlier. Make sure to leave a bit of the top attached. You don't want this to completely cut off, so you want to have that bit still intact, and that's basically it. So this step is totally optional. You don't have to do it, but I decided to line my bit of top. I just did a zigzag stitch after cutting out similar bits. This was because my t-shirt is a bit too thin and I wanted it to be thicker, but it's totally optional. That's why I did not include it in the video. So after everything was nice and lined up, I just made sure to put the top the right sides kissing, that way I could sew on the inside of the top, and I just made sure to sew up the sides and the top of my sleeve, and I just did a zigzag stitch because it allows for stretch. Yes, we finally used a zigzag stitch. I love the zigzag stitch. I am married to the zigzag stitch, in case you're not aware. So as you can see, once everything was nice and sewn up, everything looks a bit rough, and to get rid of this roughness, I decided to double hem my fabric. So double hemming definitely gives your top a more professional look, and you just do this by folding in your fabric twice and doing a straight stitch all the way around. So I did this for the armholes, for the bottom of my top, the neck hole, as well as the ties. So everything was nice and professional. I finished everything up. Yes, it did take a few minutes, but I promise you it's so worth it because the top looks so much nicer in my opinion. So as you can see, I'm just folding in my fabric twice and then doing a straight stitch to make sure everything sits in place. When you get to a bulky bit, just slow down, go through the lump, and then continue sewing at your normal speed. And of course, don't forget to backstitch because we always backstitch on this channel. As you can see, it looks super professional, super nice and neat, and it just finishes off your top in such a beautiful way. And once you've hemmed everything, including the ties, how you wear the top is just put it on and then tie the side and you are done. So that is a $39 top, which is insane to me. So on the website, the girl was wearing the top on her right shoulder, but since this has no tags, you can literally wear it on whichever shoulder you're in the mood for that day, which is what I love about DIYs. You can just customize it and it's more fun. Anyway guys, that's it from me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had so much fun and I hope you did too. Please be sure to try at least one of these DIYs. I promise you they're super easy to do, and the fun thing with DIYs is you can customize them to fit your body, and I think that's really exciting. Anyway, I hope to catch you in my next upload, but until then, I don't understand how a cropped flannel can cost $44. So if someone can explain that to me, I would be really grateful. Anyway, see you guys next time. Bye.